You are literally dumber when you're alone. And you're like, I got this. No, I don't need any help. I'm just sure you can probably figure it out, but it's going to be a more stupid solution than if you had other people around you. You can't live your life alone. Here's the fourth healing choice. Write it down like this. I will choose rest. Now, I know you already wrote sleep, but just because you sleep doesn't mean you're rested. Because rest comes from peace, the peace of God that transcends all understanding. And so we need to learn how to cultivate the presence of God in our life, to remove those distractions outside of us and inside of us, to hear the gentle whisper of God. You need to find what I call the pace of grace in your life. There's a different pace that God wants you to live where you're walking and listening to Him. Psalm 73 says, when I tried to understand all this, like I tried to figure it out. He said, I tried to solve it. I'm just going to solve this. I can work it out. He said, I was troubled deeply until I entered the sanctuary of God, until I got into the presence of God. See, in this place, you guys can, I know you sense God and you hear God and you can sense Him here in this place, but there's 6 other days outside of this building that you need to learn how to listen and find this pace where you're hearing the voice of God. You ever heard it said, all is well that ends well? I don't think there's a truer statement. I like the statement, all is well that begins well. If you would just begin your day, and if you begin your day from rest, from this place of hearing from God, begin there, I think it would actually set things in order in your life. I call it the first 15 of your day, first 15 minutes, worship, prayer, the word. Get into it. Just worship, word, prayer, 5 minutes, just those first 15 minutes of your day. And I'm telling you, you start it with God. We should be living our day from rest, not for rest. And some of you think rest is something you earn after a long day's work. You put in a lot of work, and you're like, okay, and I feel like I was productive today, and you rest. That's actually not the rhythm of God. That's not the pace of grace. You should be working from rest, not for rest. So we need to choose this. We need to choose rest, to be anxious for nothing. Let me continue the story. Verse 13. When Elijah heard this gentle whisper, look what he did. He pulled the cloak over his face. Your face represents what you believe about yourself, your identity. So God's pulling him close, but he's still a little bit, he's like pulling the cloak over his face, and he went out and stood at the mouth of the cave, and then the voice said to him again, what are you doing here, son? What are you doing here, Elijah? And Elijah replied, I've been very zealous for the Lord Almighty. The Israelites have rejected your covenant, tore down your altars, and put your prophets to death with a sword, and I'm the only one left. And now they're trying to kill me too. That sounds very repetitive. I'm not reading the same thing. He actually says it again. He repeats the lie again to God for a second time. For some of you, the reason why you're anxious is because you've talked yourself into a lie that's not true. And you've rehearsed this lie. You've gotten good at even telling it. You know what to say and how to say the lie that you've told yourself and convinced yourself. Well, where does this come from? It comes from a few places. It comes from, one, what people are saying to you about you. And I'll say it mainly in the form of social media. And some of you have been convicted about this, the way that social media makes you feel. And I feel like I'm a messenger of God today, giving you confirmation of what He's already told you. And here's what I want to tell you. It's time to get off it. It's time to get off it, to limit it. I've removed it from my phone entirely. I just use it to encourage people and to uplift people. But so people come up to me every now and then. They're like, hey, did you hear about? And I'm like, nah, I didn't hear nothing. I don't care to hear it. In fact, don't even complete that sentence because I don't even care to hear what you're talking. I don't need to know. It's called selective ignorance. You know what I mean? You need to select what you're ignorant about. You're going to be ignorant about something. You just got to select what you're ignorant about. You got to stop listening to the voice of the haters and debaters. Quiet things down in your life, Elijah. You're giving too much ear to the wrong messages and just quiet it. You want some peace? You got to get healthy. But it's not only what others are saying about you, it's what you're saying to yourself. The research says this, 95% of the emotions that you feel are determined by actually what you're saying to yourself. Let's continue. Verse 15. The Lord said to him, go back the way you came. Remember, that was Beersheba. That's the place of the oath, where he made his oath, his covenant with God. God tells him, go back to where you started, and I need a re-up from you. You ran away. You're trying to run from your calling, trying to run from my calls. I'm not finished with you, Elijah. Go back and re-up the covenant you made because we're not done. Go back the way You came, go to the desert of Damascus, and when you get there, I got more work for you. You're my prophet. You're mine, Elijah. Go anoint Hazael king. And then next verse, go anoint Jehu and anoint Elisha. He's going to be the one that succeeds you. He's telling Elijah, I got more for you. You're not done. One of the best things that you could do for your stress, your anxiety and stuff is just start making a difference with your life. Put something of purpose in your life. Be used by God in your life. And then it goes on. Verse 18, God says, yet I reserved 7,000 in Israel, 7,000 prophets. You thought you were alone. I've reserved 7,000, all whose knees have not bowed down to Baal, whose mouths have not kissed him. So here's what he's telling Elisha. You need to renew your God-given sense of purpose, but I need you to anoint some more people to do it with you because you can't do it alone. Here's the choice. I will choose support. I will choose support. I'm not going to do it alone anymore. If you continue reading the story, Elijah went out and found Elisha, and he actually throws his cloak over his shoulders, which is, when someone would do that, that's a sign of a covenant relationship. He's bringing him close into a covenant relationship. He left his servant behind when he first was stressed out and running, which was the wrong choice, and now he's bringing someone back close to his life. Did you know that your IQ drops 30 points when you're isolated? You are literally dumber when you're alone. And you're like, I got this. No, I don't need any help. I'm just sure you can probably figure it out, but it's going to be a more stupid solution than if you had other people around you. You can't live your life alone. And not only do you need the support of others, but listen to me, you need the support of God to sustain you. I love how God, he comes to Elijah and he wants to know what's inside of him, what he's feeling. What are you doing here, Elijah? What are you doing here, son? Where are you at? I think God is inviting some of you close. He's inviting some of you close again to hear the whisper of his gentle voice, but it's almost like before you hear that, you got to get some things off your chest. He's like, come on, tell me what's going on, Elijah. Get it off your chest. Psalm 32:3, it says, when I kept silent, my bones wasted away. Like my body was affected when I tried to hold this in, groaning all day long. The longer I was silent, I tried to hold it in. I acted like I didn't need anybody or need help. My body started giving me signals. Let me say it like this. If you don't talk it out to God, you'll take it out on your body. Your body feels it and will know it. It's a signal. Some of you are getting signals in one way or the other that you're unhealthy. It's time to listen to what God's trying to tell you. You didn't choose a lot in your life, but you're here. And your identity and legacy doesn't come from what happened to you, but what you choose to do. Let me give you one final verse. Not in your handouts, right up here on the screens. Look at it with me. God says, this day, and I want to speak that to you this day, I call heaven and earth as witnesses against you, that I have set before you today life and death, blessings and curses. And God says, can I give you a hint? Choose life. You can choose that. You didn't choose that. You didn't choose them. You didn't choose that part. But you can choose this. You can choose life. You can choose blessing. You can choose health and healing. You can choose to turn around and face the forest fire, blaze a new trail in that wilderness. You can choose a new legacy. You can choose your identity. The identity God has for you, what he says you are.